Hi, it's Began here. So I've been living in Minneapolis for 54 days now, almost a month. Not long enough to really know a ton about Minneapolis, so this is going to be my Minneapolis first impressions, observations about the short time I've lived here so far. So one thing that I've observed since moving here is what I'm going to call the regular way. A bunch of restaurants we've been to when we're in line ordering, kind of like Chipotle style or Cava, where you're in line, you're getting toppings and things. They'll just ask you, do you want it the regular way? And I always say yes, and it's always delicious. There's like a banh place down the street from us, and they asked, and we were like yes. And they even, when my husband couldn't decide what meat, they're like, oh, the pork is really good. So we got the pork, and it was delicious. There's a pho place by us, and they just asked, do we want traditional Vietnamese toppings? And we said yes, and it was, again, delicious. And then there's an Eastern European deli by us, and we were getting sausages. They're like, oh, do you want it the regular way with onions and sauerkraut? And we're like, of course. And then also we got potatoes there as a side. And I don't know why my husband ordered a side of mashed potatoes because it's not something I normally get at lunch. But then they're like, oh, yeah, do you want it the regular way with tomato and onion sauce? And he was like, yes. And it was amazing. They were like one of my favorite things. It was so addicting. So I was really glad they asked that. So it seems pretty common here so far. So I really like that. They like just makes it helpful and easy when you're trying someplace new to like get the right stuff. So yeah, the regular way. My next observation of Minneapolis is there's a lot of colored lights. So whether it be like in apartment homes using hue lights or just like buildings being lit up and the colors changing, I've noticed that a lot. It was like recently Valentine's Day, and there's an apartment building to the right of us, and we can like see their lights, and they change them to pink and red for Valentine's Day, and then a bunch of buildings in the city also changed to red. So that's really cool. We have like a nice view of the city, so we can always look out. And they changed like to purple when the Vikings were in the playoffs, and they change often. So I really like that. And sometimes the bridges light up. And then I also just noticed like looking in people's apartment buildings, like windows when I'm walking around, I just see a lot of them like lit up pink or purple or all kinds of fun colors. And I feel like I didn't see that very much in DC. So I feel like people just really like hue lights and smart lights and just like changing the colors of the buildings. I think it's really fun and festive. So that's another thing I've noticed since living in Minneapolis the past month and a half. Another thing that is really awesome about Minneapolis is the coffee here is so good. We kind of already knew that before we moved, but it continues to be amazing. We like to get our beans from Dunn Brothers. They're like really delicious. We get like the espresso blend because we have an espresso machine, and always makes a great cup of coffee. Additionally, like Spy House is really good, and like the ambiance is so great. There's like the one that's like pretty much a jungle inside. So that's always like a great place to hang out if you're trying to warm up. We've also been to Fairgrounds, which they don't roast their own beans, I don't believe, but they make a really good cup of coffee. So if you just want to get a cup of coffee, I definitely suggest them. But if you want to get beans, then go to Dunn Brothers or Spy House. And then also we've tried out Peace Coffee, which was also very delicious. But yeah, like the coffee houses have made like really good coffee. I feel like the best cappuccino ever at Fairgrounds actually since I've been here. And also like they've been very cozy places to hang out. And like every time we get coffee, we always get it for there because we just enjoy hanging out in the coffee shop so much. And they're not just like completely like every table isn't completely full of people on their laptops. Like there's people just having coffee together. Of course, there's some people like on their laptops working, but it's not like overrun like DC. It was like you couldn't even get coffee for there if you wanted to, unless you got there like first thing in the morning. So the coffee's amazing here. Yeah. So my next observation is that there's good beer everywhere, which like I kind of knew before we moved here, but I didn't know like how amazing it was. And then going out to restaurants that like typically in anywhere I've lived wouldn't have good beer. Like go to a Mexican restaurant, there's like Negro Modelo or like, Corona, which I don't mind, but like the Mexican restaurant by us, they have like a local Mexican style lager on the menu, which was delicious. It was like honeyed something Mexican lager. I think it was Indeed, not positive. Um, but like yeah, they had like amazing like beer options, like, and they were on brand with what they were. They were Mexican style beers. There was like clown shoes, like I think it was called chocolate sombrero on the menu, and they also had like regular Mexican beers as well. But like I've never seen that before, like craft beer in a Mexican restaurant, and also like on brand craft beer. And then there's like an Indian restaurant right behind us, and we went there and they had like local craft beer, and then they also had like some Indian beer. Like I've never been to like an Indian restaurant that had like good beer. So that was like super exciting to me. And then like the ramen place by us, well, I guess it's a sushi place, but they also have ramen. They have Bell's Two Hearted, and like Bell's Two Hearted and ramen is like my favorite. It's so good. I love like a bitter IPA with a spicy soup. So it's really nice. But yeah, like everywhere has good beer, like places I wouldn't expect. I normally like at a Indian restaurant or Japanese restaurant or um just yeah, like I wouldn't expect them to have good beer. Like it's normally like cocktails and things or like, you know, what have you. So it's been really cool that like I can get like a delicious beer and Indian food or and ramen or and Mexican food. Um, that's not just like the typical Corona. It's like a local Mexican style beer. So that's been really awesome. And yeah, it's just crazy. Like I think about we don't have a yard house here, which I've had in previous places I lived. It's like we don't need it because like every place that serves burgers has almost as many taps as Yard House, like, or at least as many quality taps. So the beer here is like amazing. So Minnesota Nice is real, and it's not just Minnesota nice; it's like Minnesota friendly. So not only are people nice and helpful, when we first moved here, I went downstairs and I thought I was getting a small package and it was a giant package, and someone else was down there and they helped me lift it onto the cart so I could bring it up to my apartment because I went down by myself. And yeah, if you ask help or directions anywhere, people are always super um, helpful. And if I go out to a bar and where they see RD, they're always like, "Oh, are you visiting? Do you live here?" When we tell them we just moved here, they give us a host of places to go. But yeah, people are just like not shy here. Like you just talk to strangers. Like the other day, I was coming home, I from a dog walk, and it was all snowy out. I just came in, and someone stopped me. And they're like, "You live here, right?" As I walked into my apartment building, I was like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Oh, do you like it? Would you suggest living here?" And so we talked for a little bit. But I feel like I don't know anywhere else I'd ever live that would never happen. Would someone just like come up and be like, "Oh, you live here? Do you like it?" or whatever? Like it it just seems, I don't know, strange to me. It's like it still confuses me when like a stranger tries to talk to me. I'm used to them asking for money from living in DC, so I have to remember to like be polite because my like gut reaction is just to be like, "Oh, sorry, I can't hear you. Keep walking," or whatever. But I try to be polite and talk to people, and mostly like somebody might just be like asking directions or what have you. I haven't had anyone try to recruit me to a cult or. And then people asking for money are pretty like upfront about it. There's just people on the street being like, "Oh, do you have any change?" And then if you say, "Oh, sorry, I don't," they're like, "Oh, thank you." Like, so it's not. I feel like in DC they'd like try to get you in with a hook or something, and then either like get money from you or get you to join their cult or sign their petition or what have you. So yeah, people are like genuinely friendly here. Hold on, let me let my cat in. Blair, are you scratching at the door? All right, sorry about that. So yeah, like people are just generally nice and friendly, and it's definitely hard to get used to from living in DC, but it's really nice. I do enjoy it. It's just it's gonna I feel like be a lifetime before it's normal to me. Like we went out for Indian food. We were paying the bill, And lady's like, how's the food? Where do you live? And she's like, oh, you live over there? That's really nice. And why'd you move here? And like, I told my whole life story to the server at the Indian restaurant. So it's just like really like nice, but also really friendly. I know they say it's like hard to make real friends here, which isn't like a huge problem for me. We'll make friends or we won't. I feel like you make most friends by joining hobbies and activities. But I don't know. I like everyone being nice to me, so I think it's great. So the last thing is that the food slaps. And I thought before here I moved here the food was gonna be good, but I didn't think like the lower end, like in between stuff would all be amazing. And like we've been going places, not doing much research, and everything has been delicious here. And like yeah, like, again, like DC is a great place to go out to eat. But for like every day, you're after work, you just want a burger and fries. It adds up super quick, and oftentimes it's like not that great for that like mid tier price. And even like you think like fast casual is like $35 for both me and my husband, easy in DC. And here it's just been so much cheaper and like really good. I will say it's super easy to only eat like burgers, tots, and cheese curds. You have to like force yourself a little bit, but like the other food, like there's an Indian restaurant right by us that's delicious. There's two ramen places we absolutely love. So it's definitely out there and available, but you have to like just, it's just super easy to end up going to a place that serves burgers and fries or burgers and tots, and it's super delicious. But yeah, no one wants to eat that all the time, I think. So those are all my first impressions of Minneapolis. I'm excited to like look back in 6 months and see how I feel about these things and what's changed about my perception of Minneapolis. I definitely feel like in Book of Mormon, where they're like talking about Salt Lake City and they have the song about how, like Salt Lake City's the best place ever and it's like heaven on earth. It's like how I feel about Minneapolis right now, and I know I feel like a little bit silly about it. But I really love it here. I think it's really awesome. These are just some of my first impressions, and I'm sure I'll get to learn so much more in the next 6 months. Yeah. So if you want more Minneapolis content or more plant content, drop me a subscribe. Don't forget to smash the like button, and I'll be back next Wednesday.